The Trade Commissioner for Africa, Emma Wade-Smith, has urged more East Midland businesses about doing post-Brexit deals with Africa. The Department for International Trade and the Midlands Engine hosted a virtual visit to the region to discuss opportunities for the region businesses to help meet the growing demand across Africa for British goods, services, and expertise. And joining us to discuss the opportunities in Africa for UK businesses and the AfCFTA is the Director of Invest in Africa, William Pollen. William, thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you, James.
First and foremost, William, why is it important for the UK to consider Africa post-Brexit?
Well, as the rest of the world is increasingly looking inward and as having a slightly siloed or even protectionist perspective on trade and investment, here is the international leading opportunity in terms of trade and investment presented to us by a huge trade deal that has been ratified and signed off by all African countries, known as the Africa Free Trade Agreement, bringing together Africa as one marketplace in the same way Europe is one marketplace for many traders. So for a country like the UK that can now make its own trade deals, negotiate on its own terms, having the single largest and newest bloc almost on its doorstep is a massive advantage that can't be ignored, especially when you look at the growth trajectory of the continent. It's not just its pure size that is attractive. The increasing rise of a middle class and demand for consumer goods and services that are so strong to the British economy, whether that be legal, accountancy, financial services, all are going to see growth with the rise of a middle class in Africa. So for two significant reasons, the UK needs to take Africa very seriously going forwards.
I mean, the pandemic has really exposed macroeconomic vulnerabilities. It has been reported that most countries will end up with huge deficit post-COVID. So, my question to you is, will the AfCFTA, will it impact the implementation of the AfCFTA? And secondly, how can the AfCFTA help to facilitate countries to recover from, the crisis countries would have faced during the COVID period?
Yeah, as ever, there's huge uncertainty around COVID. And of course, in an ideal world, you wouldn't be looking to launch the largest ever free trade deal done on the continent's history during a pandemic. However, that said, like many things related to COVID, it has accelerated a trend that was occurring already, namely onshoring. So more and more goods and services being produced locally or domestically and not having global supply chains distributed throughout the world, and especially not being overcommitted to Asia. So I think that trend has been accelerated by COVID, and you're going to see African countries using the free trade agreement as an opportunity to bring home, hopefully, some of the manufacturing and value-add services that were happening offshore and bringing them onshore, if not into their own markets, then into neighboring markets. So it's all about opportunity and perspective, whether you look at it as a glass half empty or glass half full. I'd rather say, let's look at the Africa Free Trade Deal is Africa's stimulus package out of COVID. So the wealthy countries have all their handouts from governments and massive stimulus packages, and you're paid to stay at home. Most African countries don't have that. So the free trade deal is the stimulus package for Africa, and we have to make sure that it is grabbed with both hands and the most is made of it, and it truly can be a long-term transformational stimulus package for the whole continent. That's how I prefer to look at the free trade deal.
And I remember, as I did mention earlier on, William, when you had your webinar, and I think in your closing remarks, you said, yes, there are challenges across the continent of Africa, but that's why this initiative was put together for people to understand the AfCFTA and also the opportunities it presents. What has been the feedback since you held your webinar?
A huge appetite to know more. In a nutshell, there's still, I think, 2020 was effectively a lost year for so many people that they haven't spent the time educating themselves and understanding the free trade as well as they could have done, because they were busy surviving and trying to tread water just to get through a terrible year. So that's quite understandable. But organizations like ours, Invest in Africa, we are there to support domestic SMEs and African businesses and investors on the continent